Good morning, everyone. I want to introduce myself. I'm Chelsea Karp. I work for Jewish Family Service of the Lehigh Valley. I just want to go over some housekeeping. I'd like to ask everyone to mute yourselves during the presentation. Our presenter will be speaking for a little over a half an hour on the topic of adolescents and social media, the parenting dilemma. For those of you that have any questions, please put them in the chat as we go along. Following the presenter's lecture, I will read them out loud and we will try to get to as many of them as possible. Understand that we may not get to all of them. We will be sending out some resources and the answers to the questions we're not able to answer today following this presentation. Also, the presentation is being recorded and will be made available on the JFSLV website. So I do want to inform everybody that closed captioning has been made available. If you have any questions during this presentation, please feel free to put it in the chat for me and I will do my best to help you. And without further ado, I want to introduce Kimberly Valentes, a board member for Jewish Family Service, who is a great supporter of our organization and here to introduce our program.
Thank you, Chelsea. Good morning, everybody. First, let me talk about Phyllis Ringel. So during her tenure as Executive Director of Jewish Family Services, Dr. Ringel exhibited tireless effort and extraordinary dedication to provide services to members of the Jewish community of the Lehigh Valley with a wide variety of needs. Dr. Ringel expanded the reach of JFS to educate the community regarding Jewish family issues and services. Dr. Ringel was particularly interested in adolescents and teenagers, so with this topic, we honor her interest in improving the lives of younger people. Thanks to Chet Ringel, who now resides in Florida, for making this lecture possible and for inspiring this lecture series. This is JFS's 11th annual Phyllis Ringel Lecture, so please feel free to give a shout out to Chet over the Zoom, and if any other Ringel family members join us today, we'll certainly let you know that as well. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to today's speaker, Barbara Yudis. Barbara is an experienced licensed social worker who provides treatment to individuals, families, couples, and groups for mental and emotional health issues and relationship problems. She treats clients with a variety of conditions, including anxiety, depression, grief, low self-esteem, stress, suicidal impulses, and addiction. Barbara has done a lot of research about the impact of social media, and she is passionate about this topic. Barbara, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. We'll let you take it away.
Barbara, you are muted. Hold on one moment, please.
Thanks, Chelsea. Good morning. My plan for today is to introduce, define, and suggest some basic information and recommendations related to child and teen media use. My goal is to talk a little bit about use in general, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, positive and negative impacts, and then recommendations for several age groups. I will highlight impacts and recommendations related to babies, infants, and toddlers, school-age children, and kids age 11 through 18. There will then be a short question and answer period. Today's children and teens are growing up surrounded and immersed in digital media. It ranges from TV and videos to social media, video and other digital games, and so much more. And it's all available on multiple devices: computers, gaming consoles, smartphones, and tablets. These technologies promote interactive and social engagement and foster and allow children and teenagers instant access to entertainment, information, and knowledge, social contact, and marketing. The COVID-19 pandemic only increased the amount of time young people and adults spent on social media platforms. Even before the pandemic, social media occupied an increasingly central role in our children's lives. But during the time of lockdowns and social distancing, adolescents were spending even more time viewing, scrolling, and liking so that they could stay connected with friends and the world around them. By the fall of 2020, there was a large increase in teen use on social media platforms. There was a huge benefit during the pandemic to still being able to interact with peers and see family members and still maintain important relationships. Teen use on apps such as TikTok, Pinterest, Reddit, Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, Tumblr, and Twitter grew extensively. I know a lot of parents were very worried about the rapid increase in screen time during the COVID lockdown. But what the research found was that children being online a lot was not in itself problematic. It was the way that they were engaging in being online. Active media use can be thought about and considered in this way. If you are FaceTiming, Zooming, or even texting, if you are creating content like creating YouTube videos, or if you're gaming with friends, you're doing something active. Research has shown that active use can be helpful and positive, and it certainly was during the pandemic for so many people and age groups. However, if you're passively scrolling TikTok or viewing YouTube videos for hours, that's potentially toxic for everyone. It is this passive use that is raising alarms for our children today. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent lockdown, teens grew accustomed to living so much of their lives in the digital world and on social media platforms. That has not only continued, but has increased and appears to be impacting their mental health. The impact of digital and social media on children and teens is now being studied by psychologists and neuroscientists for all age groups. There are positive media impacts. There are many positives about the use of digital media for tweens and teens. Media allows kids to maintain long-term friendships with others by staying in touch with them online when they no longer see each other regularly. Social media offers opportunities for kids to connect with others who share similar interests. Teens also use social media for entertainment and self-expression. Social media provides shy and introverted kids the opportunity to connect and engage with peers, which helps them to feel more confident. Research from the Pew Research Center indicates that social media can provide teens with valuable support, especially helping those who experience exclusion or have disabilities or chronic illnesses. Children that struggle with issues such as social anxiety, depression, or loneliness may benefit from interactions on social media. Social media can be beneficial for members of marginalized groups or groups targeted by discrimination. For instance, having increased access to peers with whom they can identify and relate to and feel a sense of belonging with is beneficial and healthy for social and psychological development. These connections can protect kids from the negative experiences that occur in their schools and communities. This may be especially important for adolescents who feel hesitant or are unable to discuss their personal and social lives with a parent or caregiver. In a Pew Research Center survey of US teens aged 13 to 17 conducted in the spring of 22, 8 in 10 teens say that what they see on social media makes them feel more connected to what's going on in their friends' lives. 71% say it makes them feel like they have a place where they can show their creative side. And 67% say these platforms make them feel as if they have people who can support them through tough times. The negative impact on infants, toddlers, and preschoolers have been researched and identified. In 1970, children began watching TV at 4 years of age. Today, children begin interacting with digital media at 4 months of age, and roughly 16% of 3 to 4-year-olds watch videos on TikTok. Many parents use screens of some sort to keep young children entertained or distracted while they juggle the complexities of work and home life. It works. Screens are captivating children's attention in a way that almost nothing else does. This allows parents a bit of a breather. Neuroscientists who study the impact of screens on babies' brains have learned how critical it is to provide off-screen experiences for infants and toddlers. There is a lot of brain development during the first 2 years of a child's life. Nothing is more important than children having hands-on, unstructured playtime with sibs and other children and cuddle time with adults. When infants, toddlers, and preschoolers spend too much time on screens, there is the potential for delays in attention, creative thinking, and development of language, motor, and social skills. Screens capture a child's attention span. For children to be successful, they need to learn how to concentrate and focus. That ability starts to develop during their earliest years, when their brains are more sensitive to the environment around them. For example, reading books out loud gives children time to process words, images, and voices. And in contrast, constant immersion of on-screen images and messages affects their attention span and their ability to focus. Screens can impact a child's ability to control their impulses. Young children need their dose of boredom. It teaches them how to play independently, cope with frustration, and control their impulses. If young children are always being stimulated by screens and the immediate gratification that screens provide, they forget how to rely on themselves and to play independently for entertainment and distraction. It has been found that screen use tends to reduce empathy in children. Research has shown that screen time inhibits young children's ability to read faces and learn social skills. These are two key factors needed to help children develop empathy. Face-to-face interactions are the only way young children learn to understand nonverbal cues and how to interpret them. Preschoolers learn by interacting with the world around them. They need to be physically active, to run, climb, swing on the playground, and to have time to be creative. They need to figure things out and use their imaginations through play and interaction with people. Playtime is crucial for learning and building creativity and social skills. Here are some recommendations and tips related to babies and toddlers and preschoolers. Recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics suggest that there be 0 screen time for children under the age of 2 and a maximum of 1 hour per day for those aged 2 to 5 years old. As I already mentioned, most of a baby's brain develops in the first 2 years of life. It is so important for babies and toddlers to explore their environment and experience sights, sounds, tastes, and textures. Interacting and playing with others helps babies learn about the world around them, which is the reason experts suggest limiting the amount of time that babies and toddlers spend on screens. The exception is in FaceTiming or Zooming with grandparents and other family members. Although in front of a screen, this is considered quality time because of the interaction that occurs. By ages 2 and 3, it is suggested that kids watch no more than 1 hour a day of educational programming. Time spent with devices like a TV, a tablet, or a smartphone can help reinforce learning and promote creative play when parents choose the educational programs and games and apps. Common Sense Media has information about age and content appropriateness. When possible, preview the games and videos and apps that your child will be using. It is strongly recommended for parents to participate in screen time with their children at this age. Again, the exception to the rule is video chatting with grandparents and other family members. Consider turning off all devices during meals and always turn off devices at least 30 to 60 minutes prior to bedtime for children. A good habit to get into is to turn off screens when they are not being used. It is important to avoid using screens as pacifiers, babysitters, and/or to interrupt and stop tantrums. However, if you're entertaining your preschooler on a plane, the world won't end if she has a little extra screen time that day. And if your young children get a little extra screen time now and then because of busyness and chaos in your world, no harm. If you have to rely on screens at certain moments, please know that everyone does, and it really is okay. School-age children in a recent poll, parents shared that 50% of children 9 to 12 years old use social media apps. Research studies have found that too much screen time can contribute to not getting enough sleep, behavioral problems, learning disabilities, attention deficit disorder, obesity, irritability, increased anxiety, and low self-esteem. Children are hands-on learners, and they need experiences that engage and stimulate their brains. That same study says limiting how much time a child spends on media may reduce some of the negative effects of using digital media at an early age. Kids who spend so much time on digital media and or on video games don't have enough hours in the day to do their homework. They end up wasting substantial amounts of time every day, which can lead to difficulties in school. They spend most of their free time online and show less interest in offline activities or real life relationships. This has impact on leisure time, reading, physical activity, sleep, spending time with peers and loved ones, and playing or spending time outdoors. Excessive screen use and having a TV in a child's bedroom can increase the risk of children getting too little sleep. Lack of sleep often leads to irritability and a struggle to focus on their upcoming school day. As well, studies have shown there is an increased risk of childhood obesity for children of all ages. More than 1.5 hours daily is a risk factor for obesity in children aged 4 through 9. Studies show that children who are on screens more than 5 hours per day are more likely to be overweight compared to children who are on screens less than 2 hours a day. So what can parents do? Teach kids about technology from a young age. Explain that tablets, computers, and other media devices are not toys. Consider explaining that the use of media is a privilege and not a given, and that you are in charge of all devices from early on. Discuss with kids that there are many benefits to technology as well as there are risks. These conversations should be ongoing and should become more detailed as your children get older. Set and enforce daily or weekly screen time limits and curfews. I can't say enough. Protect bedtime. Studies show that using digital media at night can interfere with sleep quality. Keep screens out of your child's bedroom and consider requiring your children to charge their devices outside of their bedrooms at night. Please consider restricting the use of phones, tablets, and computers for at least 30 minutes prior to bedtime. Do your research to understand the media that your child is using and check out your child's browser history to see what sites they visit. If you are going to allow them to use any social media platform, please make sure that it is only allowed under the condition that you are their friend on that platform. They're not all going to like that. This way, you're able to see not only what they are posting, but what their friends are posting as well. Encourage in-person friendships, set up play dates with other children. Some kids who find it difficult to connect with peers spend more time online. Help your child develop social skills and nurture his or her real-life relationships. Introduce children to art, to music, to sports, to join teams, play board games at home with your kids, read together. Encourage and join them in unplugged, unstructured playtime. The Family Online Safety Institute and Common Sense Media can teach parents about the many forms of social media out there and what to be careful and watch out for. Kids age 11 through 18. The current research on social media has not determined exactly what all the impacts on adolescents is, but experts are studying the relationship between social media and its impact on teen mental health. In general, potential risks are likely to be greater in early adolescence, which is a period of greater biological, social, and psychological transition than in late adolescence and early adulthood. Adolescent brain development generally starts before puberty, around age 10, and lasts through early adulthood. Dr. Frances Jensen, author of The Teenage Brain and chair of the Department of Neurology at the University of Pennsylvania, explains that the human brain develops from the back to the front. The middle part of the brain is the social brain and is growing and developing during adolescence and is the most susceptible to outside influences. The front part of the brain manages things like decision-making, risk assessment, and emotional regulation, and develops well into a person's 20s. So teens are really operating on a very highly active social brain, which is making them very vulnerable to peer pressure, risk-taking, and thrill-seeking. They are not getting much feedback from the front of their brain that tells them to stop, to think, and think about what's in their best interest. On May 23rd, 2023, the Surgeon General issued a new advisory about the effects social media use has on youth mental health. The Surgeon General issued a call for urgent action by policymakers, technology companies, researchers, families, and young people alike to gain a better understanding of the full impact of social media use, maximize the benefits and minimize the harms of social platforms, and create safer, healthier online environments to protect our children. Mental health. Experts are studying the relationship between social media and mental health conditions. It is not clear whether unhealthy social media use leads to mental health problems, or whether people with mental health problems tend to use social media too much or in unhealthy ways. However, growing data indicates a correlation between social media use and mental health concerns, especially in our teen girls. In a recent poll, parents shared that 50% of children aged 10 to 12 use social media apps. Growing research finds the more time spent on social media, the more likely a person will experience mental health symptoms, and that there is a tendency to spend more time online. When people are not engaged in the world in a healthy way, this can increase their feelings of alienation, hopelessness, isolation, anxiety, and depression. The desire to be liked is universal among adolescents on media sites. Getting likes and more followers tap into key adolescent needs. All people have a desire to belong. During adolescence, we are especially motivated to get recognition and affirmation from our peers, and many kids will engage in attention-seeking, risky, or illegal behaviors to gain peer attention and approval. Social media platforms that reward teens with likes and new followers can trigger and feed that need. Brain scans by neuroscientists have observed that when we see our Instagram picture or TikTok video liked, the same activity occurs as when we have won a lottery or gotten something exciting and new. Another research study examining adolescents' brains while on a simulated social media site revealed that when exposed to legal, harmful, or dangerous images, there was brain activation at the prefrontal cortex showing a healthy cautiousness towards negative and dangerous behaviors. The prefrontal cortex, remember, the front of our brain, helps us make smart and safe decisions. However, when teens viewed these same illegal and/or dangerous behaviors on social media alongside icons suggesting that this negative content had been liked by others, the part of the brain that helps us stay safe and make good decisions stopped working as well. This suggests that likes may reduce teens' inhibition, leading them toward more risky or hurtful behavior. In other words, bad behavior feels bad until other people start liking it. Getting enough sleep at night, as I mentioned, for younger children is crucial in adolescence. It is recommended that teens get 8 hours of sleep per night. Data has indicated that media use within 1 hour of bedtime is associated with sleep disruption. Studies have shown that sleep deprivation is linked to increased anxiety, stress, depression, as well as having negative impacts on school performance and involvement. A recent study conducted on middle school and high school students has raised the possibility that spending too much time on social media may increase the risk of eating disorders. The study focuses on the use of 4 social media platforms: Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and Tumblr. These social media platforms communicate through photos and videos and are widely used by adolescents. Through the lens of social media, someone else can always look better, skinnier, and prettier. A significantly higher susceptibility to develop eating disorder-related behaviors and obsessive focus on body weight, image, and shape has specifically been observed for girls with Snapchat and Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. Pro-eating disorder content is everywhere and has been for so many years. Pro-eating disorder communities have had a long history on the internet. As early as 2001, Yahoo removed 113 pro-anorexia websites from its servers. Social media today continues to struggle with the same problem. More recently, ad policies on Pinterest, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, and other media platforms have either banned or imposed restrictions on weight loss ads. Across most platforms, search terms and hashtags such as anorexia, bulimia, and thinspiration have been made unsearchable. Now, when users look up related terms, they are instead directed to a Need Help page with resources such as the National Eating Disorder Association, or NEDA, NEDA's volunteer hotline. Self-harm related content is prevalent on social media and addressed in many platforms and community chat rooms. Research reported in the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry documented that there was evidence that looking at images of self-harm had potentially harmful effects. Social media can make psychologically disordered behavior look good. An exposure to self-harm content could lead to curiosity, could influence and trigger cravings to self-injure, and contribute to social peer pressure. Research indicates that this content is widespread on social media sites, not only depicting these behaviors, but teaching young people how to engage in them, how to conceal behaviors from adults, and actively encouraging users to engage in these behaviors. Unfortunately, if someone is discussing self-harm with others online, they may not feel the need to seek professional help from a trained clinician to help them reduce and resolve these behaviors. Cyberbullying. Through cyberbullying, kids can be teased or harassed online. In fact, cyberbullying is considered the most common online risk for teens and is linked to anxiety, depression, and loneliness, and even suicide in both victims and the bullies. Research indicates that as compared to offline bullying, online bullying and harassment can be more severe. Victimization, harassment, and discrimination against LGBTQ+ is rampant. Racial, ethnic, and gender-related hate and bullying is widespread online and often targeted at young people. There's also strong indicators to suggest that the more we talk and educate our children about the potential for cyberbullying, the better they are equipped in handling these issues. They will then recognize it, they will talk about it, and then they can get support on what to do about it. Viral trends. Social media challenges or viral trends pose dangers to even the most well-adjusted kids. Social media rewards outrageous behavior through likes and shares, and the more outrageous, the more recognition kids are apt to get on these platforms. Social media is filled with stories, images, and trends that kids see on a regular basis as a result of their everyday media use. From dances to challenges, teens are constantly viewing and engaging in these trends and creating their own content to share with their friends and followers. Stunts like eating a Tide detergent pod, holding one's breath until they pass out, or cooking chicken in NyQuil have injured young people and even led to fatalities. Sexting is sending sexually explicit messages, photos, or videos through any digital device. It can include nudity and messages that discuss sex acts. At least 1 in 4 teens are receiving sexually explicit texts and emails. At least 1 in 7 are receiving sexually explicit. 1 in 7 are sending texts or emails. More than 1 in 10 teens are forwarding texts and emails without consent, and about 1 in 12 teens have had sexts that they've sent to someone forwarded without their consent. Sexting can expose your child to bullying, harassment, further threats, and attacks on your child's reputation. If people have seen sexual photos of your child might feel guilty and ashamed and uncomfortable about doing ordinary things like going to school or playing sports. This situation can be so humiliating, and your child might feel that their reputation has been damaged. Inappropriate or harmful content may be an image, a video, or written words that can be upsetting and disturbing and offensive. Young people are curious and can easily encounter inappropriate content accidentally or deliberately. This content may include sexually explicit material, fake marketing scams, false or misleading information, violence, extremism or radicalism, and hateful offensive material. How much exposure young people get to inappropriate content is so difficult to measure because most of the time, kids do not report or tell anyone due to embarrassment, confusion, or fear. So what do? The American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychological Association, and healthyfamily.org, plus tons of other organizations, advise that children aged 6 to 18 have no more than 2 hours a day of media use. That's not really going to work. So a 2-hour limit is not an effective approach for everyone. Social media is here to stay, and it's important for us to guide and teach and monitor our kids' use so that they can learn how to be safe and responsible users of digital media. Make sure to talk to them about expectations, both yours and theirs. The same parenting rules apply to screen time as to anything else. Set a good example, establish limits, and talk with your teen. The American Psychological Association recommends that adults closely monitor social media use in children ages 10 to 18. It is important to determine if your child is ready for social and digital media. Even if your child is old enough to join a social media platform according to that platform, they may not be ready for it emotionally and cognitively. As their parent, you will have a good sense of their maturity level and if they are ready. Parents should also make sure that all media accounts are set to private. This can minimize social media platforms' ability to utilize their algorithm programming with each user. It is important to explain to our kids about algorithm programming and what it means. Essentially, as kids begin to click on certain sites, social media platforms monitor that, and users begin to see more of that same content each time they reconnect. I know I have already discussed, but it is so important to keep the firmest boundaries related to media use at night. This will increase the likelihood of your child getting at least 8 hours of sleep. It is recommended that there not be smartphones or other devices in kids' bedrooms. Teach good online behavior. Talk to your children about the importance of being respectful in their digital interactions. Encourage them to come to you if they witness cyberbullying or other troubling information online. Discuss the effects of peer pressure with your child and how on social media this can often occur through likes, sharing, and viral trends. There is so much subtle peer pressure that happens on social media platforms in terms of how people look, how people dress, the food they eat or not, the music they listen to, and the current events that are seen and discussed. Research video and computer games before letting your teens get them. Looking at the ratings, which can run from early childhood to adults only, are on these games. Most video games should probably be limited to ratings of teen or younger. Preview these games and even play them with your child. Please consider friending your kids on social media. Let your children know that if you pay for the device and the wireless network, that they must friend you in exchange. Staying in touch on their platforms can help you keep in touch with what goes on in their day-to-day lives. Watch their stories for clues about what is going on in school and with their friends. Have conversations with your child about how to evaluate authenticity and accuracy of information online. It can be hard for teens to discern whether some websites are reliable sources of information or not. As a parent, it's important to understand the impact of viral trends that kids may be exposed to on social media and the constant peer pressure they are under to participate in such trends. Your child needs to know that sexting or sending nudes has huge risks and that it is in their control to not engage in behavior that might set them up for risky and unfortunate situations. It's really important to explain that once images are online, they can be very difficult to remove, if at all. It is also important to monitor and curtail your own use of screens and social media. Our kids are always watching what we are doing, and as a result, we are modeling behavior that they see and experience as normal and appropriate. Encourage your kids to spend time with family doing indoor and outdoor activities, cooking, art, board games, swimming, skiing, camping, hiking, watching movies, and certain shows together. Encourage and help to motivate your child to become a part of group activities by joining local community groups, temple and church youth groups, clubs, teams, and help them to seek out volunteer opportunities and activities. In summary, talk to your children. From the beginning, it's important to have an open and honest conversation with your children on what social media is and what it can be used for. Focus on the big picture, making sure your child is still getting enough physical and FaceTime interaction. It is not always just the screen time that's the problem. It's what the screen time often replaces. Please keep in mind that age-appropriate use of social media should be based on each adolescent's level of maturity, their self-regulation skills, intellectual development, and comprehension of risks, as well as their home environment. Make sure you are their friend on their platforms. See what apps are there and familiarize yourself with them. Model good behavior. Easier said than done, right? We all know what it's like to fall down the rabbit hole, researching something, scrolling through our own feeds on social media, playing our favorite games. Practicing safe and healthy social media use in front of our kids from the time they are young goes a very long way. Technology changes quickly, and it can be hard to stay on top of all the apps and sites your children use. To keep tabs on the changing tech landscape, visit the Family Online Safety Institute and Common Sense Media. What is really important to remember is to be patient with yourself and trust your gut. Don't be afraid to talk not only with your kids, but to other parents about what they are doing, or to ask for help if you are struggling with how to navigate social media and keep your child safe. Finding time in your day and week to be monitoring social media, talking with your children, reminding yourselves to monitor your own media use can be very difficult for parents who are working, raising kids, managing household tasks, and have very little time for themselves. It can be time-consuming and exhausting. It doesn't have to happen all at once. Be patient with yourselves. I hope this has been a bit informative and helpful as a first step in helping navigate the day-to-day media challenges that are out there while raising your kids. There is a resource list that I have compiled that Jewish Family Service will disseminate to all of you. It includes some helpful links and sites to help people get knowledgeable about what apps are out there and what helpful monitoring tools there are. Thank you for taking the time in your busy schedules to be here today. I will try to answer some questions.
Thank you, Barbara, for this timely and very relevant presentation. We do have a few questions, and one is from Rabbi Judah, who asked, can you speculate on the impact of AI on social media?
I cannot. I have not done much reading and truly don't understand AI very well, so I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. And also with the resources that you'll be sharing, with the data from like Pew Research, are you going to be sharing the data, the notes that you garnered from the data following up this discussion?
That's not in the resource list, but I could put that together.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
It may take a little time.
Has the medical field considered adding a social media curriculum to pediatrician training? Do you have any information on that?
Well, I know the American Academy of Pediatrics has an incredible amount of information on social media, suggestions, recommendations about impact, and that is in my link.
Okay, thank you. I just wondered if you ever foresaw a time perhaps when pediatricians would potentially add social media and mental health screenings to annual exams. I don't know how that would even work.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and Emily Ford is our board member who will be speaking in just a moment, but she talked about that common sense media. Do you know about that, Barbara? You want to share a little how that works?
What I know is that they have lots of information about educational games, about the different apps that are out there, and tools and resources that parents can view and learn about to help them monitor and curtail use.
Yeah, I've seen, if I could just add to it, it's been helpful in terms of like games and movies. And if you're wondering,
Right.
If you aren't familiar with something, I feel like it's a good go-to.
Yeah, and it's on my link.
Great, thank you. Emily, I'll let you take it away.
Okay. Well, thank you so much to Barbara for providing this wonderful lecture. And as a mother of two kids in the adolescent range, your words have certainly resonated with me, and you've given me a lot to think about, and I'm sure others as well. And I really think your advice applies, I think it was really helpful advice to the parents and family members as well, thinking about how we are on our screens all the time. I'm guilty of it.
I am too.
Yep. And our sincere gratitude to Chet, Stephen, and Matthew Ringel, and to all of you for joining us this morning. Thank you all.
Thank you all for coming, and thank you again, Barbara. Have a good day, everybody. Stay dry.